Well, hello to you. Great to see you, and I do hope that you are coping well in this enormous amount of heat that we're having here in the UK. And if you're somewhere overseas where it's really cold and wet, good for you, because we're sweltering. Britain is not built for hot weather. It just gets incredibly humid, and our houses and buildings just aren't set up for it. Air conditioning is a relatively new thing here. We know about it. We know somebody somewhere who has one, but yeah, our houses, we have windows, so that's just how we try and keep cool and fail miserably. But enough about that. Today we've got the latest release from Accurascale, and they very kindly sent one of these over to the channel so we can have a good close look. I am of course talking about the Buckjumper, and the example that they've sent is a very pretty J69. But of course, wait, there's more. They're not just releasing one type of locomotive. This is 3 in 1. In fact, you could almost argue that it's more than 3 in 1, because they've tooled up for so many different subtle detail differences between members of the class that they can pretty much do all of them. But ostensibly, we're getting the J67, 68 and 69 family of 060 locomotives, collectively referred to as Buckjumpers, because apparently their running was a little bit lively at speed, so it was like a bucking and jumping horse. But that name did stick, and these were actually quite a popular locomotive with crews. Initially built for the Great Eastern Railway system, some were used as passenger locomotives on the Jazz service, and if you remember our review on the Ellis Clark Trains quad arc coaches, well, these are some of the perfect locomotives to match up with those. But once the grouping got underway, the LNER actually found them really quite useful far and wide, and some examples made it all the way up to Scotland, where they were particularly popular with crews and could be seen even with J36 and J37 tenders because of axle loading considerations on some of the branch lines. So these really are an interesting class, and one which has never been offered ready to run before, and that's where Accurascale came in. We've been waiting with great interest. Some of the previous Accurascale announcements and releases have been very well received. Others perhaps have not lived up to the hype of their predecessors and haven't been quite as popular as perhaps their manufacturers would have liked. But the Buckjumper is likely to buck that trend. These are selling out incredibly quick, so this is probably the best opportunity to get a good close look if you haven't already got one, and get yourself to the affiliate links down below taking you to TMC, the Model Centre, or direct to Accurascale, where all of the unsold versions, and believe me, a lot have already sold out, are available at what we believe is the most competitive prices. And as we go through this video, please do remember to hit that like button, consider sharing it as well, and if you've not already done so, you know the drill.
This is not a drill, this is a real world situation.
Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and you'll be the first to know about new video content as and when it goes up. But is this a hero or a zero? Well, come with me, and we're going to be putting it to the test. Today's video comes in association with Tramfabriek, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabriek.co.uk. We're proud to be supported by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for new and used. Pre-order all forthcoming models with confidence, or check out the extensive listings of second-hand. Each model is checked by experts in the field to make sure you're getting the very best. With new models uploaded daily, there's always something new to find. You can also specify from their value weathering and renumbering service right through to bespoke graffiti to get exactly the model that you want. Get something special today by browsing at themodelcentre.com. When Accurascale announced that their next project was going to be the Great Eastern Railway Buckjumper, what actually surprised and impressed me the most was the fact that they proposed to tool up to actually do 3 different classes of locomotives. This is something that's been something of a big interest point for me for quite some time, and when manufacturers tool up for particular locomotives, it's sometimes a shame when they don't bother to allow a more flexible tooling suite to allow them to do some of the similar classes of locomotives. But that's exactly what Accurascale have done with the Holden J67s and 69s and the Hill-derived J68s. Now, the whole tooling suite really is quite ambitious, allowing not just these 3 different LNER classes to be represented, but also a lot of different detail differences between the different members of the class. Now, Accurascale have very, very kindly sent over an example to the channel for us to take a good close look at. And this is the Holden Class J69 in the really quite attractive livery of 68619, the Liverpool Street Pilot. And this had a very particularly distinctive livery and was probably arguably the most photographed of the buck jumpers during their time in work. And it's actually quite a surprise that this isn't the example that was chosen for preservation, and there is a preserved example that does survive to this day, painted in the really quite attractive Great Eastern Railway ultramarine blue, and that is also one of the other examples that Accurascale are offering. Now, it comes in a really quite substantial box, and it's pretty much becoming the norm now for locomotives. But on the end of the box here, we've got the Holden J67/J69 class 060 tank, and this is that really quite attractive liveried 68619, suitable for Era 5, it says on the box, and this is actually DCC sound fitted. So we are going to take a full look, well actually a full listen, to the sound suite that comes on the factory fitted examples. Taking the lid off, it's actually really nicely presented. So we've got this booklet which comes with, I'm presuming, all of the models, and this is for the Holden J67/J69 and the Hill J68. Now, the J68 does look somewhat different in a number of cosmetic aspects, although mechanically all 3 of these classes were pretty much the same, and this really does give a really quite nice and thorough potted history of the classes and some of the differences that crept in over time. And there's some lovely photographs which actually for me allude to other liveries that a second run of these could bring to the party, including Austerity Grey, also some of the different numbering schemes with the different running examples. And I really like this as well. It's very, very thorough. Some of the detail differences on the LNER liveries, the different LNER numbering systems, really quite hoping that at some point they actually tool up to be able to bring them as they ran in parts of Scotland, running actually with J36 and J37 tenders. Now, there is a J36 on the market already from a different manufacturer, so who knows? Maybe they will tool up and do a J37, as it would be able to then provide a tender to enhance these particular model options. They've also got a really quite interesting photograph of Metal Industries Limited, who had 6 of these locomotives after they'd spent time with the War Department. Again, another interesting livery. Then we've got a little potted history on not all but some of the liveries being offered. And I also like this livery too, in early British Railways LNER Apple Green. Again, another livery which I think would go down incredibly well. We've also got the standard leaflet here which folds out and gives us the usual basics. We've got that exploded diagram, all the many parts that go into these models, and it really just shows that these are an incredible kit of parts that go together in a precision way. It also appears that we've got a double speaker. This is factory fitted in all examples, and the decoder itself goes in through the smoke box door, which is a really nice way of making the DCC fitting so easy. So I'm just going to put that to one side. Because this is the Accurascale website exclusive, we've actually got an exclusive edition certificate here. I was actually surprised just how many people involved in the Accurascale team. I count 16 on here. Although some of the signatures a bit squiggly. Could be 16, could be 15, who knows. We've also then got a list of the DCC sound functions. There's a lot going on here. We've got the F8 coal shoveling that also operates, the firebox flicker, and really quite intrigued by F22, the Easter egg. Now, having tested this locomotive, I know exactly what that is. I did actually have to ask exactly what it is, but it plays a rendition of Sweet Caroline on a fairground style organ, and apparently that is one of the exhibits at Bressingham where the real preserved Buckjumper is kept. So that's what the Easter egg is. And then these are really quite useful for just warning people. And this again is another area that I'm quite keen on. Don't use a garbage DC controller and then wonder why your locomotive doesn't work really well. Treat yourself. Get something nice. Gagemaster give you a lifetime warranty and their controllers really are good. So, treat yourself. You spent £230 or so for a sound fitted model. Make sure you get yourself a decent controller. Getting it out of the box, it's just the standard clamshell down in here. And there's a few extra bits I want to show you. It actually comes with a pair of precision modelers, tweezers. These are actually metal. And ostensibly this is so that you can get the daughter board in and out for when you are DCC fitting. But they're also perfect for adding things like figures and fine detail to your model railway. So they're going straight in the toolbox. Thanks for that. They come as standard as far as I'm aware with all the models. And then we've got some extra detail, including all these destination boards for various stations across the Great Eastern Railway system. Plus we've got some of the air pipes. These were, after all, air braked locomotives. These really do look good. If you want a destination other than any of these, I think, there are actually, I don't know, is there? Not sure. I thought there might be some blank ones for you to add your own destinations on, but actually there's quite a generous selection in there. It's nice and sturdy packaging. And then the locomotive itself, first impressions are these are incredibly heavy. There's an enormous amount of weight in these. Again, I don't know what they're using to build models. Maybe depleted uranium. Just don't turn the lights off and see if it glows. Or put a Geiger counter next to it, because there really is a huge amount of weight going on in these. And the finish on some of these fancier liveries really is something special. We've got a lot of separately fitted parts, even down on the chassis, just behind all the wheels. A lot of the pipework is picked out. Really nice in there. And then we've got the relief rendition of some of the frame details. You can just make out some of the rivets in the base of the ashpan stroke firebox. Everything here is factory fitted. Really, you could just put it straight on the track and away you go. Those destination boards, you don't necessarily need those on your locomotive. Only the passenger versions would have made use of those. A lot of these were used as shunters or goods engines, so actually running without, absolutely fine. But I do like all this separately fitted pipework underneath, and you don't have to worry about these extra details because of the method they've chosen for DCC fitting. We've got all of the brake rigging factory fitted. The springs are actually solid moulded on the base plate there, which appears to be held in by, I can see, 3 screws. And underneath there, you shouldn't really need to go in. If you run it a huge amount, maybe a tiny little drop of oil on the gear chain, but generally speaking, you would have to run this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for several weeks before you really started to need to delve into the insides of these, and for most people that is not going to happen. Couplings are slimline tension locks out of the box, pre-fitted front and back. Really easy to remove. The pockets allow KDs or anything else that you want to be fitted, or remove them entirely if you've got another scheme in your mind. The air pipes are something that you can't actually fit with the couplings. They will foul them. So actually, I'm not even sure. Are they? The silver pipes may actually be steam heat pipes. It's just something to think about because they won't work with the couplings. We do actually have, it appears to be, well, they look like vacuum standards, maybe air pipes. These pipes come all factory fitted. We've got metal finished in kind of a silvery colour, lamp irons across the front, really quite nice. And then sprung buffers. And the actual buffer housings, they're this very distinctive circular pattern with the ring of rivets, all really quite accurately and sharply rendered in the tooling. Looking to the other side, on this particular model, you can see the Westinghouse air pump just up there on the front of the tank. We've also got, I think these are probably sand boxes, and you can also see the mechanical lever that would run back to the cab for enabling this function on the real locomotives, and it's got that really nice joggle to fit in where the smoke box widens up. It's just little details like that look great. And then we've got the clack valves on the front. There's more about that. When you actually listen to the factory sound functions, it really is great. The injector sounds exactly like what I remember the injector on my father's Garrett steam road locomotive sounding like when it actually decided to work. It's a very distinctive sound, and it is great to hear that in the sound suite, but I am getting ahead of myself. Now, the tooling suite provides for a lot of detail differences, and one of them is this step in the front of the tanks. Some of the different locomotives have it, others don't, with these fillers sat on top. And then we've got this pipe across. That may be something to do with the condensing apparatus. And it's picked out in this white. It's a very garish colour on there, but it is totally prototypically accurate. And it is a nice picked out feature. Then we've got the top of the boiler with the boiler bands just poking through there. A lot of separate riveting detail, and the panel gaps are where they need to be. And then we've got the safety valves, actually quite low down. It's a very distinctive style on these locomotives, and these feel like they're metal. They're very, very almost sharp how the casting is that's made those. We've got a whistle on the front of the cab. This is plastic, but it is a fairly flexible plastic. And then it's finished in a really quite appropriate metallic cover. Again, another detail difference between the different subclasses and examples. Some of them have these sort of arched windows, the big arched windows on the front. This particular version, accurate to prototype, has the smaller ringed porthole windows in the front with the brass frames picked out, really quite a lovely colour. On the side of the tank, they're quite slab-sided, these, and that has been replicated well. It's a great proving ground for the paint rendition, and this is absolutely perfect. The BR Lake crest, really crisp and sharp on there, and it's exactly where it needs to be. The lining too follows the shape of the tank, with that extra joggle there at the front really works well. And then the route availability 3, really crisp and clear. Moving further back, the BR number 68619, and then the Great Eastern Railway crest, I believe that is so sharp. Looking at the cab opening here, it's got this very characteristic, almost a keyhole shape, and this is something that really did stand out on Great Eastern Railway locomotives, and certainly this has been modelled really well. It's actually a separate insert for the inside here, which gives us this brass surround, and it does make it look particularly effective in the way that the curve at the bottom continues, and then we've got the handrails secured in place, finished in what's actually quite a flexible plastic, it feels like, and they do seem to be pretty resilient, although I must admit that just moving that one about does seem to have dislodged it from the bottom. But it's okay, because they give you a really nice set of tweezers to be able to just reseat that in place. Looking back round across the back, we've got the greedy bars on the bunker, and the bunker is actually modelled completely empty. I actually quite like this. It gives an opportunity for all of the internal features to be visible, and even though this is a really heavy model, there's no sign of needing to make use of that space for any kind of weight, and it really is quite a nice feature. You can see this kind of joggle inwards on the base of the cab, as per the prototype, which just gave a little bit more capacity inside there with the coal, and that's replicated on the inside. And then we've also got this cutout just down and across from one of the porthole windows, which is for the clearance for the handbrake standard. Again, some really nice features, which if it had been modelled with a coal load in here would have been lost. We've got a whole series of really quite slender but effective safety bars across these windows, and these do look really good. Again, these protect the glass from coal pieces being loaded in, and actually photographs of these locomotives show some really quite big, hefty chunks of coal being used. So you could imagine without these protective bars that have been really nicely replicated, these would very quickly get smashed up. We've also got what looks like a cab height extension that is accurately rendered there. It's like a seam of rivets across there, and it's a different radius to the actual cab roof itself. Across the back, we've got another one of these boards to take those destination signs, and then some really nice printing. Just try and get that focused on, and you can see this works plate on the back. Really well detailed. There just isn't anything to fault, it has to be said. We've got separately fitted lamp standards on the back, and then again we've got the draw hook and I'm going to say air hose and possibly steam heat or vacuum. That is all here in place from the factory, and there's some really quite slender pipework hidden away too. You can just about see it up there picked out in red at the top of the buffer beam, and then we've got really quite crisp white lining around that. You can also see some of the extra pipework in place, and it all makes up into a pretty great package. Now the cab roof itself, it's a complex arc shape, so we've got the steeper tumble home at the side, and then the much more gentle arc across the top. Now what I like about this, well, there's two things I really like about this. First up, we've got a posable hatch which can be actually posed open or closed. A little bit stiff, but it is there and it does work. It does stay in place. But then the real party trick for this locomotive is the cab roof is held on by 4 tiny little magnets which attract these mounting points which are hidden away up here at the top. Now this gives us full access into the cab interior, and you can see there no expense has been spared in terms of actual gauges here. They are all picked out, and even the needles are in the correct and appropriate places for a locomotive that would be in steam, and it's nice little touches like that that really bring this alive. The back head of the boiler is picked out in this kind of blue colour. I think it's the same blue colour that the rest of the livery is featured in, but there's a huge amount of separately applied detail parts all picked out in different colours. We've got the gear there on a wheel which would be wound in and out for I presume the cut-off on the cylinders, but also moving the locomotive from forwards to reverse and into neutral gear. The firebox flicker is hidden away down here at the bottom and is quite effective. You can't really see any LEDs or anything, it just kind of works the way that they've got this set up. But with these tweezers you can also add in some driver and fireman figures, and they have some 3D printed in colour figures available on their website that have been done for them by Model U, and that means you don't have to be a skilled figure painter. You order them up, you glue them in, and then it's just simply a case of pop the roof back on. It's held on there by the magnets, and it really is a nice touch. There's not really much more else to say about these models, except we've got the correct pattern of spokes on the wheels. Some of the locomotives had more spokes than others, and this does seem to be something that the tooling suite does allow for. The lining on these wheels is exactly where it needs to be, so we don't get any of that weird swirly wobble as it runs. The coupling rods are correctly fluted, picked out in red, and I particularly like the really quite slender pins that hold it in. We don't have an overscale hex nut. It's actually really well put together, and everything about this does look incredibly convincing. We've got steps factory fitted. Now these feel as though they're made of metal, but there's actually some degree of spring to them, so they're much less likely to get broken off with handling. And again, it's this thought that's gone into all the various different materials being used on the model. We've got metal handrails picked out in the silver across the top of the smoke box. We've got a smoke box dart on the front, separately applied. That feels quite springy. I don't know whether that's metal or plastic, but it does seem quite robust. And that rounds off the J69.
69, dudes!
Nice.
From Accurascale. But whether you've got the J67, the J68, or another of the J69s, they all have the same range of features, and it really is superb. Even though this is a review sample that's been kindly supplied by Accurascale, I must admit I have been totally won over by this diminutive model, and I've already ordered myself, in my case, the J67 in the ultramarine blue Great Eastern Railway livery, and I really do look forward to that arriving. Sadly, it hasn't arrived from TMC, the Model Centre, in time for the filming of this. However, it will be featured on my layout on a Monday Club in the future, and I really am looking forward to getting that up and running up here. On that subject, there is an affiliate link down below which takes you to your choice of either TMC, the Model Centre, for all the different main release versions, but do hurry, they are selling out incredibly quickly, or to the Accurascale website, where again they have sold out incredibly quickly, but you may get lucky, and what they tend to do is hold a few back for if they need any for warranty, or if they have orders that people have placed but then not come through and paid for. Those do get released to the open market, and that's where you will be able to, at some point, if you're quick, pick up one of these Liverpool Street Pilots. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model 00 gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world, with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com, and don't miss out on your latest logo.
When it comes to DCC fitting, this couldn't be easier. Now all we need to do is just very carefully with a fingernail take off the magnetically attached smoke box door, and then apparently there's just 2 holes, and these tweezers that are supplied allow you to hook in there and then just wiggle the door to board free. And you can see there that there really is just no problems whatsoever. The next 18 socket is here on the underside. This is the factory fitted sound decoder, but should you wish, then something such as the Trainomatic Next 18 decoder will be an absolutely perfect fit in there, and then it's simply a really easy case of sliding it back in. There are some tracks in the front, just line that up with those, drop it back, and then just for simplicity's sake just hook in the hooks on that and give it a push, and it goes all the way back. And there's even room underneath if you are using a brand of decoder that isn't compatible with the onboard Stay Alive. There is plenty of space here underneath to be able to fit your own stay alive should it be needed. Now, I do get asked whether a HM7000 decoder will fit in here, and I will say the next 18 one will be far too wide, so unfortunately that's not something you could fit in, but I think that's merely a small price to pay. Once you've got your DCC fit in and up and running, it's just a case of lining up the smokebox door, and it actually just pops back in. In fact, I think if you just throw it at it, the magnets ensure that that seats first time every time exactly where it needs to be. When it comes to running on the layout, this really was a stalwart performer. I had it on my test train of, I think it's around 26 or so mineral wagons and a couple of brake vans. And again, this locomotive took them in its stride. Normally you find small 6-coupled tank locomotives do tend to start to struggle with grip, but there were no issues whatsoever with this locomotive. It's very well balanced, and the weight on it too really does give some amazing grip, and it performed well above average in this area. It got through all of the point work and such like on weir yard without any issues whatsoever, and on the main line really there was nothing to fault. On the torture test track, again, it took in the gradients, which are up to 5%, with a longer than average train, certainly far more than I would have expected any other similar 6-coupled tank locomotive to manage. It did tend to struggle over some of the tighter curves and the undulations on that torture test track, and there was a couple of locations where the front axle just gauge climbed and popped off the track, but that was after coming out of a radius 1 curve, which in fairness it did manage to get round, albeit right at the limit of what it could manage, and I think it was a case of the thrust sideways from the wagons it was pulling that caused it to pop off the track. Now, Accurascale do say that radius 2 is the minimum that they recommend, so you can't really fault it for not quite being perfect on a radius that's tighter than what is recommended. All in all, the performance was exceptional, and there's not really anything to fault in this area. This is the sound profile that comes on the factory fitted versions of all of the J67, 68s and 69s. Now, I've tethered the locomotive to a couple of other stationary ones so that it will actually just skid on the spot, and the reason for this was I was just a bit concerned that the rumble of a rolling road would mar some of the sounds, and this seems to be the best option. So I'm going to press F1 and then work through some of the sounds, and you'll be able to see and hear just how all of this works on this locomotive. I want to demonstrate now the factory fitted Stay Alive. This comes in all models. It's set up to work with the factory fitted sound example really well out of the box. There's nothing to do. If you're going to be using other brands of decoders, do check for compatibility, and there may be some CV settings to change to get that to work. So what I'm going to do is, on the spot, I'm going to get the locomotive running, and then I'll pick it up off the track, and you'll be able to see just how long it keeps moving even off the juice. So I've got it up to speed step 40. I'm not going to use the sound because that will drown everything out, but I am going to turn on the firebox flicker. I'm going to pick it up, and you can see that that is still going really quite well, and that's more than enough than you would ever need on any layout, so that's going to keep it running really smoothly through all manner of track work and dirty spots. So we come now to the scores. First up is build quality, and this is a very robust model with some really quite thoughtful methods of construction and the materials used. In all my handling, nothing has come loose, nothing feels like it's unduly delicate, and even some of the small pipework really has just stayed where it needed to. The brake rigging as well, often a casualty of handling, has stayed exactly in its place, and all in all there's just really nothing to fault on this. Even the sliding access hatch in the roof is something that feels incredibly durable despite how slender that piece is, and really there's just nothing to fault whatsoever, so it gets the full 10 out of 10 in this category. Next up is running quality, and in this area the model again performed ahead of expectations. It handled a train much longer than what you would normally expect a 6-coupled tank locomotive to be able to handle, and even on the torture test track, albeit on the 5% grade, it handled the 5-wagon train, which is actually a lot more than some of the other 6-coupled tank locomotives that we've had through for review. The only area where it fell down a little bit was in coming out of radius 1 curves, where I think it was a case of the sideways push of the wagons on its rear coupling caused the front axle to pop off the track. But there's a little caveat here. It does quite plainly state in the instructions that radius 2 is the minimum recommended. So I'm not going to actually take any points off for that, because that is outside of the specification, and in every other aspect this handled really well in all areas of wear yard. So, well, it gets the 10 out of 10. On DCC fitting and innovation, well, this is an area that I have to say I am incredibly impressed. When it was announced, it wasn't a case of saying, we're going to do the J69 or we're going to do the J67. That's something that unfortunately we have seen from a number of other manufacturers in the past, that they kind of major in on the most popular of the locomotive classes and do it to the detriment of some of the closely related classes around it. But here, Accurascale have done a very comprehensive tooling suite that's allowed them to do not 1, not 2, but 3 different classes of locomotives and all of the detail variants within those. And that alone gets innovation for me. But wait, there's more. The magnetically attached cab roof, whilst this isn't the first manufacturer to employ this, it's really well done on this model, and really you're going to be taking that on and off a lot just to admire all of the detail inside that cab. It really is second to none. But wait, there's more. Of course, the DCC fitting on this really does show the way to other manufacturers with that magnetically attached smoke box door. This isn't the first manufacturer to try this, but certainly they've done it incredibly well. And the fact that they give you a really nice set of modelling tweezers that also doubles as the perfect attachment to pull out that daughter board really does mean that this is an all-round great package. There's just nothing to fault, so I'm going to give it the 10 out of 10. On accuracy and quality of finish, again, Accurascale have stepped up to the plate and hit it out of the park. The finish on this particular example really is impressive, with so many different separately finished parts that are all assembled there. There's nothing for the end user to have to put on themselves, and it really is crisp and clean. Looking at the photographs of the other J69s, the J68s, and the J67s, there really is nothing to fault across what I see. There's just such a finesse in the livery application. This is absolutely the best model that Accurascale have brought to the market. And I'm comparing that to the Manor locomotive that they've done previously, and also the fabled Class 55 Deltic, which did have a couple of minor foibles, but in the case of the Buckjumpers, there are no such things. I can't find anything to fault. So again, 10 out of 10. On value for money, it has to be said that this is often where a lot of models tend to lose a little bit of points in the scoring. And that's because, well, prices are creeping up and up and up. It's one of the facts of life that this is just something that always happens. But Accurascale do feel like they've kept the price rises to a minimum. For the DCC Ready version, and bear in mind that includes all of the accoutrements that you get on the factory fitted version just without the decoder, you get an awful lot for your money. We've got an affiliate link down below that takes you to your choice of either TMC, the Model Centre, or to Accurascale Direct. And $139.99 really is a good price for what is a real museum quality finish on this quite a complex locomotive. If you want to go down the sound fitted route, well, that's £229, and that's actually less of an uplift than you normally expect from adding sound to any model from any manufacturer. Yes, there will be people who will complain about the cost, there always are, but in the grand scheme of things, this is nowhere near as expensive as it might have been, especially if it had been brought out perhaps by one of the other manufacturers. You could have expected a slightly higher price, and actually, if they had done just that, I don't think we would have begrudged them, but this really is a great deal with some value for money here and a lot on offer for your money. It gets the full 10 out of 10, and that can only mean one thing. Woohoo! Break out the party poppers and some cheap Prosecco from the local corner shop. Yes, that's right. We have our second only model that has ever managed to get the full house of 50 out of 50. Really, the Buckjumper from Accurascale is something special, and I have been incredibly impressed by what I've seen. It's definitely one that you should consider adding to your collection if you've not already done so, but do hurry, they're selling out incredibly quick. They're not going to hang around, they're not going to go into any fire sales. These are certainly one that is worth having. So there you have it, a full house, and in fact I think the only other model that I've reviewed that got the full house was the O-gauge press flow cements from Ellis Clark, and it really is saying something that this model did blow me away, so much so that I've actually got one for myself that I bought from TMC, the Model Centre, before they've run out. I actually got the J67 in that really quite attractive Great Eastern Railway ultramarine blue, and I'm super looking forward to that arriving. It hasn't actually arrived during the time that I've been filming the video, but when it does come, you will see it taking pride of place here on my layout. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you think about these models? What do you think as well about having a tooling suite that allows so much variety? And I'd love to hear from you. Do leave a comment down below. Also, if you spotted something or you've got any hints, tips or experiences with your own Buckjumper model, or just let me know which version is your favourite. Leave a comment down below, and it's a great way of passing on your knowledge to your fellow railway enthusiasts. But for me, this is definitely something that I want to see more of. I'm on record talking again and again about how I really do wish that manufacturers would tool up for similar locomotives at the same time. For a very long time, it was a case of you got one and only one, and the example I've always given is the J72. When a manufacturer tooled up for an all-new tooled one of those, it's such a shame that they didn't at least try and do the similar J71s. And I think the J73s might have been similar enough to incorporate into the tooling, because without the J72 sales, we're just never going to see a ready-to-run version of any of those other classes. And that's where Accurascale really have done us, the modelers, an absolute solid with the tooling suite that allows all three of these classes. And long may that continue. I do really hope that we see more of this going forward. Please like, share and subscribe. We've got an affiliate link down below, and you can also check out our full merch store and grab the Monday Club badges that get you in-person shopping discounts with a range of different retailers and museums and such like. Full list available on the website of where you can start saving again and again and again. And we always say, support the companies that support your hobby. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabriek.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
We're proud to be supported by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for new and used. Pre-order all forthcoming models with confidence, or check out the extensive listings of second-hand. Each model is checked by experts in the field to make sure you're getting the very best. With new models uploaded daily, there's always something new to find. You can also specify from their value weathering and renumbering service right through to bespoke graffiti to get exactly the model that you want. Get something special today by browsing at themodelcentre.com. I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends. Oh, and stay hydrated in this weather. It is so hot. It is sticky hot. And the worst thing is when it's so hot at night. Keep hydrated. Have a pint of juice at the side of your bed. And when I say juice, that's a peculiar northern thing. What we actually mean is a wee dab of cordial to take the taste of the water away and just chug that back. You can never really drink too much water. Well, you can, because somebody will go,
"Oh, well, Jenny says it's absolutely alright to drink 4,000 gallons of water, and oh no, I've started leaking."
But you know what I mean. A good few pints of water really does help in weather such as this. And I'm sure that Jenny, I'm not editing this. I'm sure that Zoe will cut all this out.
No!
Bye-bye.